Okay, this is a little bit different for Nintendo when it comes to their big games. Usually Nintendo will have their games out on the Fridays of the week of release, and then we get reviews on Wednesday. So we usually get it 2 days before, but this time we're getting a little bit of a mix up with Fire Emblem Engage, and reviews are going up on Tuesday of this week. So as of the time that this video is going up, it's going to be tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Now, I got a post on Metacritic that had this to say: expect Fire Emblem Engage reviews Tuesday at 6 a.m. Pacific. Any Metacritic predictions for this one? So I'm going to be doing that prediction in addition to going over some other pretty substantial news for Fire Emblem Engage. But this is the biggest, because why is Nintendo doing 1 day early for review embargoes? That is very interesting that it's 1 day early. With these reviews, usually a publisher sets the date for the embargo, and the closer it is to release, the more, I would say, worried you should get, because usually there's something wrong with it. Now, Nintendo's pretty consistent with the reviews, even if a game isn't as reviewed as high as some of their other games. But the fact that this is 1 day before, there is something that Nintendo wants people to know about this game beforehand than what they usually do. So what this means is that this is good for Fire Emblem Engage. The reviews are probably pretty good. So we're looking at probably a mid 80s or so. I'm not really thinking that it's going to be in the 70s. Some people have predicted that. I don't think so. I think it's going to be in the mid 80s or higher. So we could see 84, we could see 86, 87, somewhere there. That's where I'm kind of predicting for this, anywhere between an 84 and an 87 for this game. I would be surprised if it hits what Fire Emblem Three Houses hit, which was an 89, because it was the first major Fire Emblem game on the Nintendo Switch. You had the 3 paths and everything. Obviously, the art style for some people might have been a bit better compared to this one here, more anime. So I'm not exactly sure. Now, I think Japan, obviously, it's going to be a little bit different with Famitsu. I think that's going to have a higher score and better player type of peer reviews, more so than here in the West with the mainstream media. But I feel that this game has a chance to be better as a pure Fire Emblem game, because they're bringing back the weapon triangle, they're having a singular story, they're doing things that are really kind of focused on what some of the classic Fire Emblems did, plus they're bringing in some of that new school stuff from Fire Emblem Three Houses, and also the Fire Emblem Heroes angle as well, which we'll get to in just a bit. This is absolutely a major thing here that they're doing this, that it's 1 day before when they usually do it. That means confidence in these scores. So I'm hoping that it does work out well for Fire Emblem Engage. But I do want to talk about one more thing before we get to the next topic here, with some sales data that has continued to be pretty impressive, is that there are some people out there that feel with Fire Emblem Engage that Nintendo has not done enough here in the West with the marketing and the appeal of the game. There's been some posts on Twitter, and I don't really take those too seriously, but I did want to address it because I've been covering this game like crazy on this channel. I've been covering a lot of the Japanese stuff, and obviously if you look at the Fire Emblem Japanese page on Twitter, they're updating all the time, and here in the West, they're not translating any of that. Now, there is some, don't get me wrong, I shouldn't say any of it. There is some that Nintendo of America is doing, but there's been a couple trailers and some footage that has not been translated yet, and it's been weeks out in Japan. Big trailers. They did the Somniel one, which was great, but there's been some other basic trailers and stuff that they're just not localizing, and I'm guessing maybe the balance to that is just having the gameplay. Like here in the West, there's been a number of publications, Nintendo Life, I think Nintendo World Report, there's been like GameSpot and some other places that got previews and also were able to just put up raw gameplay footage of about maybe 5 minutes or so from pretty deep into the first half of the game or so, like chapter 7 or something like that, or deep into the game, not necessarily at the very beginning. So you're just able to see the game running in its full glory, and it looks and runs beautifully. It really is a great looking game and a great running game. I've been analyzing everything with it, and the footage looks spectacular for what they're doing here, and absolutely a bump up from Fire Emblem Three Houses. So I'm guessing that's what the balance is here in the West. It's like, you don't need all of that. We're just going to get you raw gameplay. Check it out. That's doing really well. And we're going to get you reviews earlier than usual to make up for all the rest of that. So that's what I'm guessing with that one, because there were some people saying that, oh, VAs aren't hyping it up and all that. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, hold up here. VAs can't say anything. There's NDAs until the game launches itself. We always have to wait till the game launched and they say, hey, I was the VA for this character. Check out whatever game. So I do feel that it's going to be okay in that realm. And there's another big reason why I don't think the problem with the marketing, or if there is an issue, why it's going to affect things too much, because we did get some updated sales information for Fire Emblem Engage here in the West. So shout out to my man Croc O'Clock. He's always on top of it when it comes to Nintendo news and sales charts and stuff like that. He does a great job. So shout out to him. Make sure you guys go follow him on Twitter. And he actually gave us an update. And I covered this not too long ago on the channel here. I think like the last video or two, with the Amazon sellers and how Fire Emblem Engage is becoming the top seller here in the West on Amazon. And now we have an update, because Fire Emblem Engage is currently the best-selling game on Amazon in the US, also in Japan, in addition to France and also Australia. So those 4 different places, #1 best-selling game, and you always want to see that before the launch. And to see it a week before launch, or the week of launch, is absolutely key, because it means that that hype has been ramping up slowly, where you saw Fire Emblem Engage, I think like a couple weeks ago, break into the top 20 or so. Then all of a sudden it rapidly went from like 20 something or so all the way to #1, and that's awesome. The Fire Emblem fans are getting ready. People that are casually interested in it are getting ready, but mainly it's bulk of the hardcore Fire Emblem fans. And then once the reviews come out and once the core fans get the game and the content starts flowing out, that's when word of mouth spreads. That's when other people say, okay, I'll try it out. We'll see what's going on. We'll see how all of this works. And people kind of trickle in and buy it over the course of the year. But people need to realize that really at first, for games like this, hardcore fans support it, and then it trickles down to everybody else. So as long as the hardcore fans are out there pre-ordering the game, buying it on Amazon, and we also have a good amount of content creators willing to make content on the game to spread word of mouth, then I know this game is going to be just fine. That's pretty much how all of Nintendo's smaller franchises operate, whether it's Xenoblade or something like Astral Chain or games like Bayonetta. All of the hardcore gamers kind of go and get it first, and then after that, it trickles down to people when it's their second, third, or fourth type of pick for a month of a game. So I'm not worried in the slightest, especially with these Amazon results so far. I think that pre-orders on the eShop have been pretty good as well. I know it's also up there, so I'm excited for the launch of the game. I think things are going to work out pretty well based off of what we've seen. But speaking of working out pretty well based on what we've seen here, Fire Emblem Heroes. I've talked about how I think that there is a huge opportunity to get a lot of Fire Emblem Heroes players. Remember, this is the most profitable, successful Fire Emblem game of all time, is Fire Emblem Heroes. Nintendo's most successful mobile game as well. Can you believe that? And this game has a huge base of people who still play to this day, despite the game being multiple years old at this point. And now they're doing some cross promotion between Fire Emblem Engage and also Fire Emblem Heroes, which is incredibly smart. Now, on the official Japanese Twitter page, they did have this to say: if you play Fire Emblem Heroes, you can get weapons of the special agency. There's the Vice Brave, there's also the Fire Emblem Engage, and bond rings, Alphonse, Sharon, Anna, that will appear in Heroes. So it's pretty cool what they're doing here. This is a very smart promotion to do, to kind of have that crossover. I have played Fire Emblem Heroes myself, so I will be taking full advantage of that. All you have to do is just beat the in-game tutorial, and you can access it. Go to the quests and icon screen. You'll be able to link it up and get that code. You'll also be able to get some rewards as well for Fire Emblem Heroes, the game, some bonus 5+ orbs and all that. So I'll have a link for you guys on Nintendo Everything. They did translate it out to English for us. Also, there's like an event going on with this. I guess with the orbs, if you want to play in Fire Emblem Heroes, it's from 5 p.m. PT to 8 p.m. Eastern Time on January 19th, 2023. So it'll be active for those 150 days. So more information, like I said, link in the description. This is the smart move for Nintendo and for Intelligent Systems to cross over. And I think that this shouldn't be it. Like, they should do more crossover events between these two games, because this will be the first time in, I would say, years that I've even decided that I wanted to open up Fire Emblem Heroes. I still have it on my phone, and I think that it's a fine game. It's just I'm not into mobile gaming. Like, there's some great mobile games out there that are fun, like Marvel Snap and other titles. There's an Octopath Traveler game that's great, but I'm just not into the mobile atmosphere. But for certain rewards, to be able to get some characters and stuff like that, for Fire Emblem Engage and special weapons and all that, I'm all over this. I am all over this when it comes down to it, man. I'm looking forward to these characters in addition to these extras for this game. And I think that this is really going to help the game sell better and also have more overall appeal for people that really just play Fire Emblem Heroes on the mobile phones. And maybe this might be their first mainline console-based Fire Emblem game. So very good to hear that. Now, I do want to talk just a little bit about Fire Emblem Engage and kind of the reception that it's getting and what you can expect some other big things with this game, and especially on this channel. Now, the game is coming out on Friday, all right? It's going to be January 20th on Friday. The game will be coming out. I will be covering it with content. So if you're someone who's a newbie and you want to get into the Fire Emblem lore, you want to get into the Fire Emblem games and just like how the game's play and everything, I will have content. I do have some content already up. I'll have links to those for you guys, link in the description below. Some of the stuff if you want to know the features of the game, some of the online and what they're doing there, some of the extra modes, and just breaking things down, because Fire Emblem can be a little bit intimidating for those who have never played it. So make sure you just stay tuned here. Of course, hit the notification bell, subscribe if you're someone new, all that good stuff. Now, I do feel that with Fire Emblem Engage, I think that this game has a very unique opportunity, which I've discussed before in previous videos, that this game can really be a bridge for multiple other players to be able to get into Fire Emblem. I think that this game is the least complex that a Fire Emblem game has been when it comes to a mainline Fire Emblem game and not a remake or anything like that since Fire Emblem Awakening. I think part of the appeal with that game and why it did so well is because they took Fire Emblem down to the basics, they brought it back, but then they added in some fresh stuff that made it feel new and reinvigorated the franchise. I think that a lot of those ideas that they did in Fire Emblem Awakening in terms of reinvigorating and having something new, it has that same energy with Fire Emblem Engage. I think that the Bond Rings are a phenomenal idea. One for new players who say, okay, well, yeah, I don't know who these characters are, but it's a really cool mechanic and I can fuse together and then I can even learn about them more if I felt like exploring their games. And then also for returning players or people that are fans of the franchise, you get to use some of your favorite characters of all time. So I think that it creates a dynamic that not only new players and also returning players or people that are into Fire Emblem can really like. And I like the fact for this one, I know this has been somewhat controversial with some people, especially if you're a Fire Emblem Three Houses fan, but I like the fact that it's not like Fire Emblem Three Houses, because we already have Fire Emblem Three Houses and that was plenty of game. There's so much game in Fire Emblem Three Houses between all different paths and everything that you can do with the characters. I think that it was good for them to kind of steer in a little bit of a different direction, kind of go back to old school classic Fire Emblem and make it to where you have a singular story path and that's what you're doing. Then of course add all of the cool bells and whistles that make sense for what they're trying to do in this game. You're still going to have support conversations. They're not going to have all of the romantic options and everything that Three Houses has, but you're still going to have the support conversations. You're still going to have the tea time, or you can go out to eat and get benefits and boosts. You're still going to be able to talk to your different teammates and learn more about them. Now, it's not going to be as in-depth, but it's still going to be solid when it comes down to it. So I think that there's always some things that's good that you take and kind of put it into your game for what you're doing in this title, and things that maybe you leave off and add in new stuff. So I do feel that the Emblem Rings is a fantastic addition in addition to everything else they're kind of adding in here. And I think that they're taking away a lot of the annoying things with Fire Emblem Three Houses, especially for some people with the teaching stuff. I know that can be automated, but some people were just like, I don't really feel like doing that. I think that with this game, they've added in a lot of fun stuff when it comes to like being able to train, or even some of the mini games and stuff like that. Also some of the online play. These are the type of things that I feel that are functional, that add a lot of value to the game when you don't have some of the multiple paths in terms of the scope and size that Fire Emblem Three Houses had. So I think that it's a good direction for this particular game and what they're doing with this story and the gameplay mechanics. It makes complete sense. So I feel that this is going to be a great launch. Look forward to more content here on the channel, guys. And I do want to point you in the direction of the link below. I'll have more content for you guys on Fire Emblem Engage, more videos if you want to know more about the game, especially if you're a newbie, or some of the other features if you missed them. So I think it's going to be a great launch, and I cannot wait to cover the game for you guys more when it comes to content. But thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it, and we will see you for the next video. Peace.